Okay, so we're diving into something pretty intense today. You guys wanted to know more about the raid that took down Osama bin Laden.
And we've got some incredible details from this document we found called Pasted Text.
It's really wild. It lays out like the entire mission, codenamed Operation Neptune Spear.
This deep dive is going to be like straight out of a spy movie.
Seriously.
You know, one thing that's striking about this whole thing, this Operation Neptune Spear,
Yeah.
it really shows you how the world works. I mean, global power, intelligence, fighting terrorism, it's all right there.
It's crazy that people are still talking about it all these years later.
It's huge, yeah.
But to really get it, I think we got to go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Back to September 11th, 2001. Everything changed that day.
No doubt.
And then bin Laden and al-Qaeda, they claim responsibility for the attacks.
Right.
And suddenly he's like public enemy number one.
Instantly.
So the U.S. launches this massive manhunt.
Yeah.
But it's like he just disappeared.
Vanished.
Like, how do you even begin to find someone like that?
Well, he had this network.
Yeah.
You know, couriers, safe houses, the whole deal.
And hiding in like the most remote places imaginable.
Exactly. It was like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
Only the haystack is the size of like the whole planet.
No kidding.
Yeah.
But then something happens in 2010. U.S. intelligence finds this compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan.
Abbottabad, yeah.
But this isn't just any compound. This thing it's suspicious, like really suspicious.
Oh, with tons of red flags.
High walls, barbed wire everywhere, no internet, no phones.
Strange for a place like that.
Right. And get this, there's someone inside. They call him the hidden figure, right?
Mm-hmm.
This person, whoever they are, they never leave. Like ever. It makes you wonder, right? Like, is this it? Did they finally find bin Laden?
It was definitely a puzzle.
Yeah.
A lot of missing pieces. But they'd been tracking this courier.
Okay.
This guy was known to be connected with bin Laden.
Oh, wow.
And guess where he kept going?
The compound.
Straight to the compound.
That's a huge break right there.
Huge.
But even then, they couldn't be totally sure it was him.
Right.
I mean, you can't just like storm in based on a hunch.
No, you need more.
So what'd they do?
They watched. They gathered every little detail they could.
Like what?
How the residents behaved, the security measures, everything.
So they're putting together the pieces.
Exactly. And the more they saw, the more it looked like someone really important was trying to stay hidden. Someone like, well, you know.
Bin Laden.
Yeah.
So picture this. You're President Obama. You've got this intel. You know it's risky. What do you do?
It's a tough call, I bet. Huge consequences either way.
Right. He could be wrong. Start an international incident.
Or he could finally get bin Laden.
It's a lot of pressure.
Intense. Yeah.
So what did he decide?
He gave the green light.
To the mission.
The mission, codenamed Operation Neptune Spear.
And that's where SEAL Team 6 comes in. The best of the best.
The elite. They trained like crazy for this. Yeah, they built a whole replica of the compound.
No way! That's amazing. So they could practice, like, over and over again.
Exactly. Every possible scenario.
I can't even imagine. I mean, how do you even plan a secret mission like that? To get into another country completely undetected.
Well, in this case, stealth helicopters. 2 modified Blackhawks.
Stealth helicopters.
Yeah. They were designed to, like, absorb radar signals.
So they were basically invisible.
Pretty much.
That's some serious tech right there.
High stakes, high tech.
It's like something out of a movie. So here we are. It's May 2nd, 2011. It's after 1 in the morning. Abbottabad, Pakistan. SEAL Team 6 is ready. Helicopters are fueled up. This is it.
The moment of truth.
They take off from Afghanistan under cover of darkness. Everything's going according to plan. And then...
Then...
Didn't one of the helicopters crash?
Yeah, you're right.
I remember hearing about that.
There was a mechanical issue.
Wow.
They had to crash land right inside the compound walls.
Oh, man. That could have been the end of the mission right there.
You think so?
But they kept going.
They did.
Amazing.
They secured the crash site and just kept moving.
I mean, they're trained for that, right?
Absolutely. To think on their feet, adapt. It's incredible, really.
So they're inside the compound now. What happens next?
Things are about to get real.
Okay, so things are getting real. They're inside the compound. What happens then?
Well, the SEALs, they immediately run into resistance.
Armed guards.
Yeah, armed guards. But remember, they've trained for this.
Right, right.
They're prepared.
So what do?
They clear the compound room by room.
Methodically, I imagine.
Oh, yeah, totally methodical. They know what they're doing.
Moving steadily toward their objective.
Exactly.
I can only imagine the tension, right?
Oh, I bet. Every second must felt like an hour.
Totally. And then?
They get to the 3rd floor.
Okay.
And that's where they find him.
Bin Laden.
Osama bin Laden.
Wow. This is it. The moment of truth.
Yeah, pretty much.
So what happens?
According to the accounts, there's a brief confrontation. And then bin Laden is shot. Twice.
Oh, wow. Where?
Once in the chest and once in the head.
After all those years, after all that searching?
It's over.
Just like that. But how did they know for sure? I mean, it was him.
They needed to be absolutely positive.
Of course.
So they used facial recognition technology right there on site.
Really? On site?
Yep. And they also took DNA samples.
To confirm it later.
Exactly. Just to be completely sure. No room for doubt.
Wow. What a story. But the mission isn't over yet, is it?
No, not quite.
Because they still have to get out of there.
Right.
And they've got bin Laden's body.
That's a big one to deal with.
Yeah, I remember that. Causing a lot of discussion at the time.
Sensitive issue, for sure.
So what did they decide to do?
They decided on a burial at sea.
Burial at sea. Within 24 hours.
That's right.
Why so fast?
Well, for a few reasons. Firstly, Islamic tradition calls for a quick burial, as soon as possible.
Makes sense.
But also, they really wanted to avoid creating a shrine.
I see. A place where his followers would go.
Exactly. It was a strategic decision, too.
That makes a lot of sense. So while all this is happening back in the U.S., everyone's waiting. What was the reaction when the news finally broke?
Oh, it was huge. Like a global shockwave.
People must have been glued to their TVs.
Totally. I mean, it was all over the news everywhere.
Can you imagine waiting all those years and then finally...
Closure.
Yeah.
Justice.
Relief, too. A huge sense of relief, I think, for a lot of people.
It must have felt like a turning point. I mean, I remember watching President Obama's address that night. It felt historic.
It was a big moment, for sure. Symbolically, but also practically.
Right.
But, not everyone was happy about it.
Oh, right, because the raid happened in Pakistan.
Yep, on their soil.
And they didn't even know about it.
Yep.
That caused some tension, right, between the U.S. and Pakistan.
Oh, yeah. A lot of tension.
Because it raised questions about what Pakistan knew.
Right.
Yeah. Were they hiding something? Did they know bin Laden was there all along? Those questions lingered for a long time.
And brought up issues about, national sovereignty.
Exactly. It's a complicated situation.
So bin Laden is dead. Al-Qaeda takes a major hit. Does that mean the war on terror is over?
I wish it were that simple.
Yeah.
Terrorism, it's more complicated than that.
In what way?
Well, you take out the leader, but that doesn't erase the ideology,
The beliefs that drive it.
Exactly. And terrorist groups, they adapt. They're resilient.
So even without bin Laden, they were able to.
Keep going. Yeah.
Wow. But, didn't things change after this?
They did. In a way, bin Laden's death kind of sped things up.
Sped what up?
The way terrorism works.
How so?
It became more decentralized, more fragmented.
So instead of one big organization.
You have smaller groups popping up all over.
Like a hydra. Cut off one head, 2 more grow back.
That's a good way to put it. And that brings us to another part of this whole thing, the aftermath. The controversies.
Yeah.
The unanswered questions.
Oh, yeah. There were a lot of those.
Plenty.
So what were some of the big ones?
Well, you had the legal challenges.
What do you mean?
Some people, some experts, they argued that the raid itself, it was an extrajudicial killing.
Oh, I see.
And then there was the burial at sea.
Right.
A lot of people question that.
Because he wasn't given a trial.
Right. No public trial, no due process, things like that.
Transparency.
Yeah.
I remember there being a lot of debate about that at the time.
Definitely. It was a tough one.
I get it. You don't want his burial site to become like a pilgrimage site for terrorists.
Right.
But at the same time, don't the victims deserve, I don't know.
Answers.
Yeah. Maybe a sense of closure.
It's hard to say what the right thing is in a situation like that.
Yeah, totally.
And then, of course, you had the conspiracy theories.
Oh, yeah, the conspiracy theories. Can't forget about those.
Those are wild.
I remember some people saying bin Laden wasn't really dead.
Oh, yeah, that was a popular one.
It's crazy what people believe sometimes.
I know, right? Like he faked his own death and is living on a beach somewhere.
It's amazing how quickly misinformation can spread.
Especially these days.
With the internet, social media, everything.
It's hard to know what to believe sometimes.
That's for sure. So, okay, we've covered a lot. The raid itself, the intelligence gathering, the global reaction, the controversies. It seems like Operation Neptune Spear had a huge impact. It had lasting consequences.
Absolutely. In so many ways.
So what are the big takeaways here? What can we learn from this event? What does it tell us about the fight against terrorism? About how the world works?
Those are the million-dollar questions.
Yeah.
And I think they deserve a deeper dive of their own.
All right, so we're back, wrapping up our deep dive into Operation Neptune Spear. It's been a lot.
A lot to unpack, yeah.
We've gone through the intel gathering, the raid, the reactions from all over the world, even the conspiracy theories.
It's a big story.
Yeah.
And a complicated one.
Definitely complicated. But now I'm thinking, what does it all mean? What are the big lessons here?
That's the key question, isn't it? I
Yeah.
mean, what can we actually take away from all this?
Exactly.
Well, one thing that really hits home for me is just how important, how crucial persistence is.
Persistence.
Yeah, in intelligence work. I mean, think about it. It took years
Years and years.
to find bin Laden. Years of just like grinding away, putting together these tiny little pieces of information.
Oh, all over the place, right?
All over.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the people who do that work. The analysts, the agents, their dedication.
Because like you said it before, finding a needle in a haystack.
Except the haystack is constantly changing, growing bigger.
And you don't even know what the needle looks like.
Right. You're just looking for something, anything that looks out of place. It's
Yeah.
a massive effort. And it took a ton of collaboration, too.
Between different agencies, different countries.
All of the above. And we can't forget about the technology.
Right, the technology. I mean, that played a huge role.
A massive role. I mean, think about the surveillance drones, the stealth helicopters.
It's like something out of a sci-fi movie.
You know, right? But it was real. And it shows how technology is changing everything, even warfare.
But doesn't that also raise some concerns? I mean, that same technology, it could be used for?
For less noble purposes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. The same tools that can help us track down terrorists can also, be used to spy on ordinary people.
Exactly. It's like, where do you draw the line?
That's the question. And it's one we're still struggling with today, this whole idea of security versus privacy.
And what about national sovereignty? I mean, the raid itself, it happened in Pakistan.
Right, and on their soil.
Without their permission.
Which obviously caused a lot of problems.
Yeah, it was a huge diplomatic incident.
It raised all sorts of questions about international law, about the ethics of, these kinds of covert operations.
Even when you're going after someone like bin Laden.
Right. Even then. It's tricky. And then you have the burial at sea.
Yeah, that was controversial too.
Because it happened so quickly and so secretly.
And some people felt like, justice wasn't served.
Right. They wanted a trial. They wanted to see him answer for his crimes.
And I get that. But then, like you said before, you also have to think about the risk of creating a martyr.
Yeah. A place where his followers could gather.
Yeah.
It was a difficult decision for sure. No easy answers.
It seems like with Operation Neptune Spear, every decision had these ripple effects.
Oh, absolutely.
That we're still feeling today.
We're still dealing with the consequences.
What about al-Qaeda? What happened to them after bin Laden was gone?
Well, they took a hit, obviously.
Losing their leader, their figurehead.
Right. But like we were talking about before, terrorism is...
Yeah.
It's like a hydra.
You cut off one head, 2 more grow back.
Exactly. And in a way, bin Laden's death, it kind of accelerated that.
Accelerated what?
The shift toward these more decentralized terrorist networks.
So instead of one big group, there are now
lots of smaller groups. Harder to track, harder to fight.
So even though they got bin Laden, the war on terror, it didn't end there.
Not even close. It's still going on in different ways.
So what now? What have we learned from all this?
Well, I think one big lesson is that, military force, it's important, but...
It's not enough.
Right. It's not enough on its own. We can't just bomb our way out of this problem.
So what else can we do?
We need to address the root causes.
The things that drive people to extremism in the first place.
Exactly. Poverty, inequality, lack of education, political instability, all those things.
It's a much bigger problem than just, taking out one guy.
Much bigger and much more complicated.
Well, this deep dive it's been a journey.
That's a good way to put it.
We've learned about history, about espionage, about the fight against terrorism.
And about ourselves, maybe.
Yeah, that too. So to everyone listening, keep learning, keep asking questions. The story of Operation Neptune Spear, it's more than just a historical event. It's something that continues to shape our world even today, and it'll probably keep doing so for a long time to come.